So will I be voting for Donald Trump in this election? So this past week was the week of the DNC, the Democratic National Convention, which was held in Chicago. And Vice President Kamala Harris accepted the nomination as the candidate for the Democrats. And if she wins, she will become the first female president of the United States. First of all, Kamala Harris has a terrible track record. She spent her entire career mainly incarcerating black men. She even went as far to block evidence that would have exonerated an inmate who was on death row. Luckily, others intervened and he was exonerated and freed. But she wanted to block the evidence to protect her reputation as prosecutor. And Tulsi Gabbard called her out for this during the debate back in 2019. And that pretty much ended her campaign. As vice president, when you look over the last 3.5 years, things have been pretty awful for a lot of Americans, pretty hard. We have sky high rents, sky high home prices, the cost of gas, food, everything, inflation, everything has gone up by a lot. As vice president, she was assigned the job as border czar, which was for her to make sure that our borders here in this country are secure. And she did not do that. Instead, the Biden Harris administration decided to open the borders to anyone and everyone to illegally break federal law and come into this country illegally without being properly vetted at all. And to make things even worse, to add insult to injury, they decided to award illegal migrants coming into this country with resources in the form of money for food, housing, free health care in California and maybe some other parts of the country, flying them in on buses, planes, and giving them the red carpet treatment for breaking federal law. And I'm not saying that every person who came into this country illegally is a bad person. No. But there have been some bad people who have come into this country and who have committed crimes here while in America. And these countries that they're coming from, they're not sending their best and brightest here in most cases. These countries, they're emptying out their prisons, their asylums, and having them come here. So Joe Biden and Kamala Harris allowed millions and millions of undocumented immigrants, migrants, to come into this country and have our tax dollars support them. Meanwhile, Americans are suffering. There are a lot of us out here who need help. But instead, our tax dollars are funding that. They're also funding these wars. We've sent billions of dollars to Ukraine and other countries too. Meanwhile, refuse to take care of our citizens here in this country under the Biden-Harris administration. I don't see why this is something to get excited about, regardless of someone's ethnicity. Everyone is saying that Kamala Harris will become the first black female president, or African American, which she is not. I don't even think, in fact, I know that she doesn't consider herself as black. I've never heard her refer to herself as being black. Asian and Indian, yes. But instead, they're trying to use that as her being presented as a black woman to get black votes. That's how desperate the Democrats have become. And their plan for the illegals that are coming to this country is to make them their new voting bloc. In the past, the Democrats have relied on the black vote to win elections. And now that more of us are actually asking for something for our vote, they don't want to do anything for us. Instead, they would rather bring these illegal migrants into the country and have them as the new voting bloc for them. And for a while, they'll probably vote Democrat, but once they get their resources in order and their finances, they're probably going to lean more conservative. Because generally, from the countries that they're coming from, they tend to be more conservative minded. And a lot of the agendas that the left is pushing, they are not in agreement with at all. But hopefully, if Trump gets elected, that he will deport as many of them as possible because our country can't handle it and it's putting Americans' lives in danger too and hurting us as Americans. If they want to come into the country legally, then they should do that instead, I think. Because I wouldn't be treated the way that they're being treated and getting benefits if I were to come to another country illegally. They would deport me pretty fast. They're putting the migrants into predominantly black neighborhoods. A lot of these politicians who are complicit in this, they're not having these migrants come to their neighborhoods. They don't want them. Some of them were even sent to Martha's Vineyard, and the people of Martha's Vineyard, which is a pretty well-to-do town, forced them out of there. They did not want them there. With the funding that the government is giving them, they're able to get loans, set up businesses just like that. And this new housing plan that she has, the down payment assistance for, I think it's $25,000 for first generation, that's for the migrants. And I don't think most people are going to benefit from that anyway because they're probably going to end up raising the prices of the homes. And if a home is selling for over $500,000 and say you get a down payment assistance of $25,000, over the course of that loan, you're still going to pay a lot for that property. So we need lower home prices, definitely, and lower interest rates too. Since the Biden-Harris administration has been in office, interest rates have increased by a lot. We have record inflation. The price of housing, apartments, mortgages, food, gas, all of that has gone up by a lot over the last 3.5 years. If this administration was so great for America, why are Americans hurting from this? Why did this happen under them? Also, these corporations, they want cheap labor. They would rather have migrants work on jobs and pay them less instead of paying American citizens a fair and livable wage. The Biden-Harris administration has been the worst administration of my lifetime. I think they were worse than the Bush-Cheney administration, to be honest. And even though they're claiming that our economy is so great that there has been a lot of job creation, there have been a lot of layoffs too, and a lot of people are having trouble finding jobs. And the Democrats, they want to allow biological men to compete with biological women in sports. Even as a trans woman, I don't agree with that at all. I'm not saying that all trans women have advantages over biological women competing in sports professionally, but in a lot of cases we do. I'm not an athlete, so I probably would not, but I don't think that trans women should be competing with biological women in professional sports. And Kamala Harris said that she is not doing anything specific for blacks. And apparently a lot of us still want to vote for her regardless of that. No other group would allow that. The Biden-Harris administration gave the Asians a hate crime bill based on propaganda that was saying that blacks were attacking Asians, which was not true at all. Most hate crimes in this country occur against us, and we still do not have a hate crime bill. If the Biden-Harris administration cared about blacks, they would have given us a hate crime bill too. But they did try to run on George Floyd too. They used that just to get into office. And sadly, a lot of us fell for it. And the fact that people are calling Kamala Harris black or African American, She does not identify as that. She has never identified as black. Her culture is more Indian. She was raised in an Indian cultured household. And her father is half Jamaican, and I think he might be Irish. But her father, I think their parents separated when she was as young as 7 years old. And she moved to Canada too, so she lived a good part of her life outside of this country. So she has not actually experienced the true black experience here in America. She is definitely not a foundational black American, a freedman, not in any sense. But a lot of us have blinders on and we're falling for it again. They fooled us twice with Obama. I voted for him in 2008 and in 2012. That was the last time that I voted Democrat. 2016, I voted third party. I voted for Jill Stein. And the last election, 2020, I ended up writing my own name in on my ballot. I woke up to the Democrats back in probably around 2015. I realized that a lot of their policies have actually harmed us in a lot of ways. And the reason why President Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act back in 1964, I believe it wasn't because he wanted to. It was for the Democrats' benefit. They knew that if they did that, they could have us voting for Democrats. He even said that he could have, I won't use his exact verbiage because it's a derogatory term, but that he could have us voting Democrat for the next 200 years. The Democrats voted against the Civil Rights Act, and the Republicans were actually for it. And I'm not a Republican, I'm not a Democrat, I'm more of an independent. But when you look over the history of the Democrats, they have never been for us. They do a good job at pretending that they are, but they're actually not. And the reason why I'm calling them out more is because most of us generally vote Democrat, still, even to this day. So for this election, 2024, I will be voting for Donald Trump. Not because I like him, I'm not a big Trump supporter at all. You will not see me wearing a MAGA hat or a Trump t shirt or anything like that. But the main issue that two of my top issues for this election are the economy and the border. We had a better economy under Trump, and our borders were secure under him. We didn't have anything like what we have now, which has hurt a lot of Americans and which is destroying this country, in my opinion. It is not making things better. Should I be afraid of Donald Trump as a trans person? I don't think so. I know that the Democrats aren't really favorable with trans people, but I think if more of us actually were more respectful, and there are a lot of us who are, but we don't get the same attention as those who present us in a bad light. But if more of us were respectful, no one would have a problem with trans individuals. But because of what you've seen, especially over the last 3.5 years, a lot of people have turned against trans people. And I can kind of understand why. So I'm hoping that from this point on that things will continue to improve for us and that we can just blend in and not infringe on anyone else's rights, because most of us do not want to do that at all. Yes, in protest of the Democrats who have used and abused us who are blacks in this country for 60 years now, in protest of the Democrats, I will be voting for Donald Trump. This will be my first time voting Republican. And our next election in 2028, I probably will not vote Republican because they have never done anything specific for us either. Although Trump, he does have the Platinum Plan, which is specific for blacks. I don't know if he's going to actually act on that. It would be nice if he did, but that would actually benefit us. Also, Project 2025, a lot of people are using that and using fear-mongering to scare people with that, saying that Trump is going to put that into law. And that isn't the case at all because Project 2025, it has nothing to do with Donald Trump. It was actually authored by the Heritage Foundation, which is a conservative think tank. They're not actually going to put everything that's in there into law. And some of it, what's in there, it's a 900-page document, so most people have not actually read through the entire thing, but some of what's in there isn't entirely bad. Even Trump said that he is not in any way involved in Project 2025 and that some things that are in that document are pretty atrocious. Said that he is not in any way involved in Project 2025 and that some things that are in that document are pretty atrocious. The Democrats, I think at their convention, which I did not watch, but I did see some parts, they were saying that Trump is going to ban all abortions. I'm pro-life. I don't agree with abortion at all, but Trump cannot do that. And Kamala cannot change the law either. Roe v. Wade has already been overturned by the Supreme Court. So there's nothing that Trump or Kamala Harris can do to change that. And abortion isn't completely eradicated. It's now the decision of the states to decide on that. And even Trump himself said that he would rather it be in the hands of the states to decide something like that. So they're giving misinformation on the whole reproductive rights, which is actually abortion, and we all know what that involves. And they're trying to use that on blacks too, saying that that's something that we should really be concerned about. And on my Instagram page, I posted a picture of the abortion clinics that the Democrats had at the DNC, which was pretty disgusting if you ask me. And I lost some followers after that, but that's okay. You don't have to agree with me. But those who know your history, you know the history of Planned Parenthood and Margaret Sanger and what her agenda was with that. And now that there are stricter laws on abortions, I think that more people should be more responsible in that area. So, more about Donald Trump. With all of these cases and charges that were filed against him, with him being a convicted felon, that's all lawfare. That's all it was. I don't think Trump is a saint, not at all. I'm sure he's done things wrong. There's corruption on both sides, basically. But to go to such measures to prevent him from running for president, it's ridiculous. From day one, just over the past 9 years, they have gone after him. Why? It's because Donald Trump is not your typical politician. He's more of a businessman. He's not really a politician. And he's not someone that could be controlled. He has his own money. They would rather have someone in there who is a typical politician that can be controlled. And the recent attempted assassination on his life, some people say that it was staged, but I don't think it was staged at all. If anything, there was an inside organization. It was an inside job of an organization that allowed this person to get this close to a former president. Because had Secret Service been doing their jobs properly, the shooter would not have been able to get that close to Donald Trump and the rally. So yes, Donald Trump is nowhere near the perfect candidate for president. We had 4 years of him, and when it comes down to the economy and a safer country with secure borders, lower inflation, we had that under him. Gone are the days of playing identity politics. They fooled us twice with Barack Obama. It's going to be another shame on us if they fool us a third time with Kamala Harris. You have to vote policy. Vote your interest. Don't just vote out of fear or for identity politics. That's very dangerous. But I think if Trump had known that he'd be running against Kamala Harris, I don't think he would have picked J.D. Vance as his running mate. And I don't know a lot about J.D. Vance, but I don't really particularly like him. I wish he could have chosen Tulsi Gabbard. I think she would have been a better running mate for him. But it's pretty disgusting how the mainstream media, after Kamala Harris having such a low approval rating as the most unpopular politician, as vice president even, and now since Joe Biden has dropped out, she's the best thing and they have nothing but good things to say about her now. It's all propaganda. They want us to buy into it. And sadly, a lot of people have. But the mainstream media, black celebrities like comedians like Ricky Smiley, who I'm not a fan of, Steve Harvey, don't really like him, and all of the others, do not take political advice from comedians or celebrities. They only do that with us, really, and I just hope that that does not work on the majority of us because you do not want to base your political decisions on what an entertainer or a comedian is telling you. Most of them, even, are already bought and paid for by the establishment. Even the Boulay members on CNN or any other organization, they've already been bought and paid for. That's why they're in the positions that they're in. They're not actually real people who are connected with the majority of us down here within the grassroots. Oh, and Roland Martin, who was hiding when this guy, I can't remember his name, but confronted him after Roland Martin called him names on Twitter, being very immature. Roland Martin is an operative for the Democrats. His job is to deliver the black vote. I do not pay attention to people like Roland Martin. And it was really off-putting when he was disrespectful to this young man named King Randall, who said he was conservative, but he opened a school for young boys in Georgia. And Roland Martin was very disrespectful to him for no reason, just because he was conservative. It's ridiculous. I can sit and have a friendly conversation with someone who disagrees with me politically. But as of right now, Kamala Harris has no policy. Trump does have a policy. His policy is Agenda 47, which is on his website. It's not Project 2025. So yes, I will be voting for Donald Trump because I want a better economy. I want secure and safe borders. I want lower inflation. We had that under him. When you go to Kamala Harris's website, as of right now, all you really see are donations being accepted to donate to her campaign. And the fact that she's raised all of this money, even these churches, these black churches, have raised all of this money for her, someone who said that they're not doing anything for blacks, is pretty sad, if you ask me. Why would you raise money for someone who has no interest in improving your community? So I think I've said everything that I wanted to say for this video. Yes, I'm a black trans woman and I will be voting for Donald Trump in 2024. And I am not a Republican and I am not a Democrat. I'm independent and I vote based on policy and my own interest. Our time is now. Let's change the world. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.